Hello and welcome to the Warrior's Journey podcast. And today we have Helen Thacker, a specialist in messaging, helping entrepreneurs find their own genius, helping them knowing their own value with their messaging, with their work. And she today explained to us so many leaps that she's done in her life. And I know I talk a lot about this of you have to choose what's aligned for you. And she has an incredible story of she's done that multiple times in her life where now she's more aligned than ever and things are going so much better for her. So you need to hear that.
We fight the powers that be, come rule the world.
Hi, Helen. I'm so happy to have you on my podcast today. We've met not long ago. I wanted to bring you to my audience today. And for women that don't know, who's Helen Thacker? What would you
Firstly, I want to say thank you so much, and thank you to your husband. And also, I love the way that you say my name. It's beautiful. It's funny because I often get called Helen because my middle initial is E, and my email address has the E in it. And so, yeah, I will go with the French version. You know, I love France, love the French language, love French, the Quebec, and all the things. But thank you. So beautiful introduction. I'm a messaging and business mentor. I'm a word nerd. I'm a powerhouse trailblazer in my industry, and I help other incredible, brilliant women to also have their expertise really seen by the world. And this is the power of messaging. And I'm absolutely obsessed with how language and the way we communicate can literally change your income, your perception, your confidence. And this is what I'm here for.
I love that so much. I feel like so many women are I know my power, and I was once there too, of Artemis is so much more than just nutrition and workout or mindset or whatever you call it, but having the words to say it when you don't have a mentor or someone to guide you around the specificity of what people wants to hear. This is a thing where I find that it's really, really difficult, especially for women I don't want to say the woohoo world because I'm in that world also, girls, but things that are less tangible and it's harder for them to grasp. So where does that messaging queen energy came from? Where did you get your messaging dialed in like that?
Oh my goodness. So just to say as well, I completely agree with what you say. And have you ever heard of the phrase, and if anyone listening's heard of the phrase, you can't read your own label when you're sitting inside the jar? And it's so true. It's so hard to communicate or to see, in fact, your genius.
Yeah.
And this is what I pull out of people so quickly. And I think, to answer your question, where's this come from? I've always had, throughout every business that I have had, I've had this innate ability to listen and to hear very quickly and understand what it is about you that is so freaking incredible, so special. I don't know whether I can swear on this podcast or not, but I'm going to keep it clean. So, it's about finding that genius, really seeing what it is about you and knowing how to sell it. I have been in sales. I quit corporate. I was an accountant. I quit corporate and I set up my own financial recruitment company, age 26. And I have always been in sales, and I know what I need to say to communicate your genius, to actually how do we position what it is that you do so that it really is the perfect match for your, what I call your premium ideal clients, people that are absolutely destined to work with you.
Yeah.
And to get you recognized in the world. But I've just always been really obsessed with language. From a very young age, I was an avid reader. I was the English prize geek at school. I learned languages, French and Spanish and German. And, I just love words. I'm not a copywriter. I'm a messaging expert who really infuses sales strategy into messaging. And I love getting of people's businesses, and really messaging is so infused in every single piece of your business. It's everywhere. It's how you show up in a written and spoken format. And so I mean, you can tell I'm just absolutely so passionate about it because I know the impact it has.
Yeah.
When you elevate your messaging, you really step into that power. The world starts to see you in a different way. And I just freaking love that.
Yeah, literally. And I love that you said that most women don't know their own geniuses, because for us it's well, it's easy for me. Yeah, it's not easy for everyone, but since it's easy for us, we don't like know what it is, and we don't like know how to like, I don't know, not pronounce it, but like say it in a way that like people will grasp, also because we talk in languages that we know, but it's not necessarily the language that our client would use and all those things. So I'm really with you there. And so you left corporate, you were an accountant, and then you went directly like in your business. And how does it like, what's the story about you leaving corporate? Like,
Yeah.
what was the urge of like, I'm done?
Okay, so there was a small step in between. So what happened was I did the traditional path of like going to university. I went to a really good, like top university here. You know, I'm the type A student, as I think, you know, many of your listeners are like, we want success. We're successful women. We're always striving to do the very best that we can. But I did not know where I wanted to go. Like I left university with a degree in geography. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I was like, you know, there's a great degree for kind of like, well, you can go anywhere from there. Stepped into the corporate world and went and worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, you know, got the quote unquote good graduate job, like the sensible career, you know, I was on my way. But honestly, Claudia, I was the worst accountant that's ever existed. I was absolutely terrible. Like, numbers are not my thing. And, you know, some people are. And so the minute I started, I was like, I need to get out of here. So I was there for 3 years. I was like, no, I'm committed. I'm going to get my qualification. I'm going to get my certification as a qualified accountant, right? But I knew from literally day one, I was out of there. And as soon as I had the chance, I was. And so I went into financial recruitment. So I was in a company where we were recruiting accountants, we were helping accountants to find jobs, you know, and filling places. And I was there for 18 months. And during that time, you know, I was 24, 25, and I was like, I've always been super independent. I've always been like, willing to challenge what other people say. If my parents said black, I was going to do white. It was like, come on, you know. And I know that there are some rebellious people listening too. It wasn't like in a really aggressive way, but it's just like, no, I'm like, I want to do things my way. So very quickly I realized there was an opportunity, and this is where my business, like innate business skills, come in. I saw an opportunity to leave this company where I was doing great. Like I was like earning 6-figure salary, you know, it was heading for like multiple 6 figures. And I was like, I'm giving a chunk of my commission to my boss. And I was like, hang on a second, I'm running the show here. I can do this myself. And so I picked up my business and decided one weekend, I'm going to quit. I'm going to start up my own financial recruitment company. Within 5 days, by the Thursday, without any clue how I was going to do it. And then we're talking back in the day, because this is how old I am, like, you know, websites were £5,000 to get started. You know, you couldn't just, it was no business in a box. There was no social media. It was all in person, you know, actual, you know, real in-person business relationship building on the phone. You know, we did have cell phones. Don't worry, I'm not that old, but you know, it was like, I didn't have a clue how I was going to do it. But on the Thursday, I walked into the office and I just said to my boss, I'm out, I'm quit. And I shut my laptop, walked out the door, took my box, carried my box, as you see in all the movies, and walked out. And on the Monday morning, I started, well, knowing me, I probably would have started on the next day, probably over the weekend, set up my business and flew to 6 figures within a very short space of time, like relatively speaking. About 13 months, I was at 6 figures, and I'd really built this business fast because I'd built relationships. I knew how to speak to people, like I said, I knew how to sell. And so it was about taking that leap. It was about, without knowing how, just knowing that I would make it work. And I know that your listeners are, you know, they will resonate with that. When you know that it will work and you just know and trust that it will work, you will figure it out, right? You're going to figure it out. And I've always made those big leaps. I've always made those decisions where I was absolutely not ready. Like I knew, and that's why it took me 5 days but even then I was like, I just almost did it on a whim. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like, I'll just figure it out later. And I remember coming home, and obviously my husband knew that. We were quite newly married then, and my husband knew that what I was going to do, but he was like, you really did it? I was like, yeah, we're going, babe. Come on, that's it. And so I've always done that. And that was my first step into being an entrepreneur. And that was an incredible experience. And since then, you know, had a couple of businesses. It's been a journey of entrepreneurship, of going down this path to where I am now and ending up really honing all my skills, all the things that I'm best at in the business that I have now, that I'm building in the company, and the movement and the incredible niche that I'm carving out in the messaging industry. And it's been, that was 22 years ago.
Wow.
I am the most resilient person that you'll find. I'm 49 next week. And I am, I'm still here, and I'm here, and I honestly have just kept going. And I knew that eventually I would end up where I'm supposed to be. And here we are. And it has been a journey. There's been lots of ups and downs and things gone wrong. And of course, but it's taking those big leaps every time. I don't hang around. I move a million miles an hour, and I don't mess around as well.
I love that so much, because I just got chills about that, because we've talked about it. I just made my switch in English also, and it's always those moments of like, inside of you there's a fire of like that little voice that don't scream. It's just like, hey, it's like, you're here for more. And like, if we don't listen to that little voice and we stay in like, I'm comfortable, even though if it's like you're like when you were at your other business, not your other business, but when you were corporate, like that switch of like, I know something is bigger is happening. I think the most scary thing is the void in between. The in-between time where you have to rely on trust only and not any proof of anything, and just be like, but inside of me, I know that. So you said you've done a lot of those leaps. So we talked about the leaps of like being in corporate to like your business, but then you had multiple business and you switched. Like how is it to have a business that work, but just be like, fuck it, I know there's something even better,
Yeah. So I took a break from work to have my boys. I've got 2 boys, and I did the whole mum thing. I absolutely adore my boys. Obviously, they are my complete world, and they're just incredible. But I am not like the kind of woman who is going to give her like everything of her life to being a mum or a parent. Always have had to have that piece for me. And that piece for me has always been about business and making money and becoming a better person. And I realized a short while ago that this is about feeling useful and valued. And I think for a lot of women listening, when you find, that warrior, that power in yourself, it really stems from that place of like, well, what good am I bringing to this world? How can I make that difference? And that desire, that drive to do that. And so I had my boys, but I was bored. I'm just going to be honest with you. I was bored of doing the mum thing. And I was like, I need to do something myself. And, after a few years, I was like, I need to go and work. I need to go and build another empire and build another business. And it was a case of finding something that worked for the family at that stage in our lives. And so I did what a lot of women do, and I turned a hobby into a business. And I actually started an incredible wedding cake design business. I was very creative and I absolutely adored it. But it wasn't really serving me and my family, because the wedding industry is a weekend job and it's full on. And although I did that for 7 years, I was determined, always looking for opportunities to franchise or looking overseas or speaking to people about how I can expand. I don't want to be the only person, and thinking about really how I could scale that business.
Having a high-paying job.
Exactly. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But it was hard work for not a lot of income, and also the scalability. I was like, okay, I wasn't sure. So again, I saw this opportunity in business. Again, I saw this chance for more income, for more reach. And I actually joined a network marketing company, and I did this as a second stream of income at the time, and saw this as like, okay, I see and understand the business model of network marketing, and I like it, and I'll give it a go. And within 7 months, I had scaled that network marketing company to a 6-figure business. I had a global team, and I was made for this. I was back in that whole leadership role that I had, been in previously. The wedding cakes, just me and my powdered sugar and a lot of washing up every day, of washing the dishes every day. But it was like, now here I was again in my element, selling, growing a team, being the leader. And we moved online. This was back in 2019. And then COVID struck. And after a year of being in this network marketing company, I'd grown this big team. COVID struck. And suddenly everything went online. And the emphasis became on social media. And so I developed my way of building a personal brand on social media for network marketers, because we're all selling the same products. You know, how do you stand out when there are 10.5 million other network marketers around the world? How on earth do you like make your business, your social media account, the one that people are going to come and buy from, come and you know, join the team, etc., etc. So I was becoming known for that and was being asked to train globally for other teams. And so fast forward a couple of years to 2 years ago, and I suddenly saw again another business opportunity. Hang on a second. Again, it was the same mirror. I'm just saying this out now. I'm realizing for the first time that mirror of my experience when I was in my recruitment company. I'm giving a commission to my boss there. Here, I was giving a commission to the network marketing company.
Yeah.
I can go and do this myself. And so off I went. And 2 years ago, I quit. So February 2023, I quit and went all in on my coaching. Started by specializing in kind of social media, personal brand building, you know, and content creation for network marketers. But I soon realized that I had so much more. I had so much more to say, so much more to kind of, so much more help that I could give, so much more impact, you know, genuinely, without wanting to sound cliche. But really, it was like I needed to widen who I was speaking to. And so I started honing my craft. I started going all in on messaging. And this time last year, you know, after investing, and I still invest, you know, multiple tens of thousands of dollars every single year, I was like, I felt so confident in my messaging expertise that I was going to position myself as the messaging expert. And since this time last year, it has just skyrocketed. You know, I've had massive growth very, very quickly, and I'm continuing to really kind of snowball. And yeah, here I am. And I'm just loving, like I said, helping other women to find what it is about them. And then we go all in on it and we get you out there and we get you seen. Yeah.
I love that so much because like we just talked about, the leaps of like having to like go on again, like you had multiple six figure and just be like, okay, but I know there's more. And I think that it's so difficult for women, especially like having that need of security for most, of like going somewhere that it's so aligned that like God, the universe, the source, whatever you call it, like will just like give you opportunities, like you said, like more growth than you had in like the past businesses in less time, because that was the thing that was the most aligned. So every time you feel like you have like those walls, like invisible walls, and you're like, why? It's just sometimes it's just like there's something there for you, and it's not because like you're not good or you're not all right or other people are more special. It's just you're not in your genius. And I love that now, having find your own genius, that you do that for other women. So that's really incredible, because I think that's something we need, especially like having a guide, a mentor that does that and have done that, to be like, okay, if she has done it, I can too, you know?
Absolutely. And yeah, I agree with everything you've just said. And it is about zoning in on that genius. And then it's about taking those leaps. Like it's about, if, you know, if you are presented, like you said, with those opportunities by the universe, God, whoever you believe in, it's like, not everyone takes them, right? Everyone takes them. And you have to, honestly, one of the side effects that I see from people, my clients that work with me, is this level of audacity and confidence absolutely rubs off on my clients like very quickly. But the practicality of the messaging, when you start to communicate your genius to the world, there's like this momentum happens, because your confidence raises. When you go all in on your niche, on your zone of genius, and you get very, very highly specific, and you identify why you're so special, what makes you unique, and you talk about that, you start attracting the clients that are made to work with you. You start resonating, and you feel like your content's so relevant to them that they're finding your page, and within minutes they're like, where has this person been all my life? You know, where's Claudia been all my life? She's amazing. And instantly there's this like, okay, I need to find out how to work with her. And then you bring in those clients, they get incredible results, and you feel so good about yourself, because all of the clients that perhaps had not felt aligned, who hadn't got the right results with you, and therefore knocked your confidence, and you're thinking, am I really good at this? It's nothing to do with your expertise. You're amazing. It's just that the right people weren't working with you. But when you call in those people, your confidence goes through the roof and you get great results. Your clients feel great. You get great testimonials. You go up another notch in your level of leadership and audacity. And then you put that out on social media, and it's just that snowball effect. And that's the practical side of it.
Yeah.
And I just love that. But you've got to go all in on something micro. What is it about you, about your unique way of doing things? And I'm not talking about reinventing the wheel here, okay? It's just you are unique and you are enough, but everyone does things in their own way. What is it about that way that is going to be the thing that your ideal clients are just, I need that? You know?
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned about this, because I surely think this is the most important thing. But I want your take on this. What about the client? Because you said, like, when they come to me, they get more confidence immediately, because I'm totally with you. I've been in a journey before, like 2 years ago, of wanting to save my client more than they wanted to do the actual work. And then when they don't do the work, and then you're like, doing more work than them, and then you're like, well, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not okay, maybe. And it's just like those patterns of accepting those clients. So I think, yes, it comes from owning your genius, knowing that. But one thing I've saw with the years is, like, this comes from patterns that are going in other relationships, in other ways of life, of like, if you feel like you're not enough, like, you're not gonna think like, oh, maybe that client is not like aligned. You're gonna think like, oh, I'm the problem, I'm wrong. And not to say we're not here to get better, but like, you're nothing wrong with them. So have you seen, like, for your clients or for you, moments of like having to like break limiting belief, or break like some things that are influencing since more than just on business, you know?
Absolutely. You know, we all at the beginning of our business, I've been there as well, right? Like, I'm not perfect in any way. And I've been through all these experiences, you know, at the beginning of my business, taking on clients that I knew deep down were not right. But okay, great, they're going to hand me $2,000. So I'm going to take that client. Exactly. And that's fine. Again, yes, you're right. And this is where you come in with the, you know, the incredible work that you do. And it's about really finding that inner knowing and confidence in yourself, and that belief. And I've definitely seen that. And one thing that I know from my own experience has been when this massive shift happened in me, when I realized, like, really, really, really realized and anchored this in, that I can help anyone, no matter whether they are, you know, quote unquote, ahead of me, behind me, at my level. I have this genius that people need and want. And it doesn't matter if they're earning 10 times what I'm earning. You know, we're not putting ourselves on a measuring stick here, okay? Let's take that away. And as soon as you do that and you realize that, why are we measuring ourselves? Because I think a lot of us do. Like, why are we measuring our success based on where we're at, how much but even like the time that we've been doing it, it doesn't matter if we've got a gift and it's getting great results. And I think for me, that's been my shift, that big moment, that kind of belief over that block that I kind of got rid of, and shifted my beliefs in myself, and that knowing, and my audacity went through the roof, my confidence went through the roof, and it really had this ripple effect. I started showing up in my messaging with this, like, I'm going to tell you how fucking awesome I am. I'm sorry. And I'm going to do it all unapologetically, you know, who cares? But then with my clients as well, I think what happens is that it is that practical side of the messaging. They don't realize how small they've been playing. They don't realize that they're keeping themselves safe. And they've perhaps been living in, I don't know, lots of high value posts. It's comfortable to post lots of educational things because it shows how good we are. It proves our expertise. And they don't understand why they're kind of in this safe place. They can't see they've been staying in this safe place, but they don't understand that they've been holding back so much. And things like pricing, you know, all of those things, your pricing is a massive part of your messaging, you know, and I always look at that with my clients. What's the perception of your offers? You know, how are people seeing you? And I think, for my clients, it's those practical pieces that I help them to put in place that allows them to suddenly realize the power of your messaging to just give you that fire and show up as that warrior that you are 100%, you know?
I love that so much.
Yeah. And why should your clients are probably getting the best of you on calls, but you're not showing up with that energy online. And we've got to match that outside perception to what it is actually like inside of your world.
Yeah, and I felt that shift too. And there's two things I want to jump on because, like, if you're listening to this, I hope you understand like the power of this. And it's just pricing for me in my life was really, really difficult because no one around me, like when I started, I remember I was like, and I think that was okay in the beginning because you need to get testimonials, you need to get
Yeah.
ball rolling. You need to know who you want to work with, what you want to do. But see, like my family was like, ugh, I would never pay for this. Or like friends were like, oh my God, like that's what you charge. Or like, and it's just like that moment of like, yeah, but those people don't understand business. Those people don't understand what you do. Those people are not your client. And when you let yourself influence by the people that are dragging you down and are not like lifting you up, and those are not the people you want to work with. So why would you bother? And I remember I was doing those digital retreat, and I'm gonna do one soon. And I was doing those digital retreat for like $97.
Wow.
And like I was giving a workout plan, a nutritional plan. I was giving mindset. I was giving, we had like live every week. We had like special guests, like 4 special guests to come, like all the thing. And I was showing up, answering questions. And I was like, I don't understand why people don't buy it. And then one time, one girl answered me and she was like, well, if you offer all those things, why is it just $97?
Exactly.
And then I was like, I heard so much. And then it's just like, I'm the same way of like, if I see something, like, I'm not going to try to buy the cheaper thing where it's going to break in 2 weeks. I want something like beforehand, before knowing the value of this. I would never buy like Yeti, or I would never buy like Patagonia or like those Arc'teryx like brands.
Yes.
But now that I understand of like, yes, if it breaks, they're going to own it and they're going to give you another one. Like, because they trust their brand. But the thing you buy for like, I don't know, $100 cheaper will break in like a month, and then you're gonna have another. Like, there's a reason why the price is there. So I think like what you said is just so important to understand, because I feel like I've talked to this with another like guest, if it's like another time of like not prostitution, but like energetic prostitution. Like I'm giving so much and they don't see the return because you don't price yourself well. There's some people that pay 5 times more what I was doing in the beginning, and they thank me when they buy. And the other one was like not wanting to pay. You know, it's the same program.
It's all about your value. It's all about communicating your value and
owning it.
Owning it. And that is the confidence piece that comes. And then the snowball effect happens. Yeah, it's magic. I love it.
Yeah. I really love that. Like, that's something you help your clients, because I feel like most people are like, should I charge this? Should I? You know, so it's so difficult. How did you discover this for yourself? Like, how did you decided that, oh yeah, I'm owning it, I'm owning that price? Like, you said that you had your moments where it was difficult, and like, what keep you say like, no, I'm not gonna lower my price, or whatever it is, you know?
It was getting specific, honestly, Claudia. It was really getting very dialed in on what I do. And knowing, again, then working on something that I know is a key part of your business, that I see so many, like 99% of my clients come to me and they have not worked on yet. And that is your process. Really identifying the specifics inside why and how your work gets those incredible results that it does. And I'm not talking about just, okay, so I do, you know, say you've got like a coach in like the lifestyle kind of realm, you know, I do breath work and EFT and some NLP, and then I walk my clients through like a really detailed nutrition plan, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. It's about like, well, but what is it about those things? And can we get deeper? Can we get more specific? Why that combination of things? In what combination? Why Why do you believe that those things work? Why do you know those things work? Let's map this out. Even if every single client, which they should be, is treated in a unique way, and you're going to apply those things very in a bespoke way to every individual, but it's like there is a process, there's a step by step. And what's the process for? Why does it get your clients results? Let's walk through it. And how are you talking about that process in your messaging? And the way that you deliver that process, like that's important, because one client, one ideal client might want things in a very step-by-step way. So you've got to talk about it like that. Another client might want simplicity. Another client want nurturing. Another client might want, I don't know, the bespoke, the very, very high end. You've got to identify what your premium clients want at the place that they are at in their journey. And this piece is usually missing. People think that in their messaging, they're talking about their process. And it's just like, you know, here are the 4 steps that I took my client to go from 3K months to 36K months. You know, no, we don't just talk about the steps. It's like we need to understand why, so that when our ideal clients see our content, they're like, yeah, I can see myself in that. And there's a way to do that. That obviously that I teach, but I know that that's missing. I know. And another piece is the energy that you bring, you know, this is more to do with your brand. And I'm obsessed with this, like the vibe that people get when they land on your page, when they're in your world. You know, this is you really showing up and having that level of confidence to be yourself, right? I hate the word authentic. I'm not going to use that, but it's like one of those overused words. But it's like, you've got to show up as yourself. And what is it about you and being in your world? How does that feel? What are you communicating about that? You know, and for me, it's like in my world, I have this duality of like unapologetic, power, audacity, let's go and make a shit ton of money, but also my core value of inclusivity, kindness. You know, I will not tolerate mean girl vibes. And it's like the power matches the nice girl energy, but in a really powerful way. And I often describe this as like the rich and the real, and it comes together, and like really making sure that you're communicating that in your content and your messaging genuinely, and speaking about that, so that that's how you're going to find the people that you are meant to work with.
I totally like felt that for myself, of like, at multiple point in my story, when I began in the beginning, I was in the fitness industry, just nutrition training, but I came from like spirituality. I was doing more Wicca at that time. I found God, like I found the universe, whatever you call it. But like I was talking a lot about mindset on my pages, and I remember my coach at the time was like a guy, and he helped me, but I felt like be coached by men all my life. I'd like dialed down my feminine energy so much, and it was just like, you don't show enough workouts on your post. You don't show enough like the fat loss like pictures before and after. I'm like, no, because there's so much that other than just this. And I was so pissed, and it was just like, okay, then this is what I have to do. But it was not me. Of like, I didn't want to show the before and after pictures. I want to talk about like the relationship that was not aligned, that ended, the new job that they find, like the new things that happened because of those things. It was like, and now I did my business of talking more about mindset at the time. And then not everybody started doing that, but then it was like more known, and everybody was doing mindset. It was like, I just know that every time I had this urge of doing those things like before, and I was just like not following my instinct because I'm too coachable, because I was like, oh, this person is before me, so I should listen. But then when I understood of like, just be yourself, and at every point of my business, when I started to have like a new like a client avatar, a new ideal client, I was like a little bit like, okay, who I should be, and not knowing exactly. And then I was like, fuck it. And I'm just myself, and I'm just that goofy person that love going really, really deep in the same time. And people are like, oh, I love that energy. I'm like, okay, so stop not being yourself. But when you own your like your messaging, but also your confidence, and also you know what you do and how you do it, because that's super important. You said that of like, I remember in the beginning of my business, and I was in a coaching, and that man was like, so what are you doing different? And I was like, I do this. And we were like in a room of like, not millions of other entrepreneurs doing the same in nutrition. And he was asking like, okay, who does that? And everybody raised their hand. I was like, but I do this. Who does that? Everybody raised their hand. I was like, you have to find a way to say it, which is different, and no one's gonna raise their hand. And now I'm like, now I'm there, and I know there's no one ever that I know do exact same thing as me. But it's a process of finding that. So how did you find that for yourself? Of like, there's so much business coaches, and for me, there's so much like coaches also for that. So how do you separate yourself?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. It's through practice and through just like the more clients you have, the more you will see what you like, what you're great at, what you want to throw away, and really refining your zone of genius. And it's that process. I've talked about this so many times of refinement. How I started as a general business coach and then refined down to network marketing, or from network marketing to business coach. Then it was like down to messaging, and then it's down to simple audacious messaging that helps future female leaders. It's like, it's all that process of refinement, and that's how it happens. But through through practice and through the experiences that aren't so good, where maybe you haven't been able to get a client a result because you were over promising things. And a lot of that does come down to the communication. I remember about 18 months ago, no more, slightly more than that, I had a client came to me and she was like, oh, you can help me with like back-end systems and putting together like all the tech on the sales funnels. I was like, where did you get that idea from? And it was like on the edge of what I do, which is like sales strategies. And I do help people with like the automations, like from a non-tech point of view, messaging through your email sequences, of course. But I was I hadn't communicated it properly. And so, it's through those mistakes that you realize, oh, hang on a second, like I need to really like show who I am. And you gradually realize that, what you're good at, like I said, and you will just keep on dialing that in more and more and more. And I know this word niche is so overused, but honestly, it's so powerful when you are sitting in that place that you are so certain about, that you are so fucking good at what you do. And when you sit there and you don't try not to be everything and just be that specialist in that one area, I promise people need that. No matter how small it is, they need you, and they need you and not anyone else. And that's how clients flock to you. Yeah,
I love that so much. I was in a business conference, and once that guy that has like multiple businesses, multiple million, is just like, he has a water bottle and it's like, maybe you think you need to do this. He takes the bottle and like, you actually need just this.
Right.
And then we were like, okay, where is going with this? It's like, do you know how much money the guy that invented, like the toothpaste cap?
Oh yeah.
Just the cap that like it's made like in a cone, and it will not fall on the ground because it will turn. Made hundreds of millions just for this thing. You don't need to have the whole thing. You just need to have your own thing. And I was like, whoa, that moment was like a moment that I remember a lot. And it's just so important. And I feel like it comes a lot from imposter syndrome of having to be everything and having to do everything. But once you go in your genius more, you have less imposter syndrome, because you're not trying to be someone that you're not. You're not trying to have the knowledge that you don't own. You're doing your so much that you're like, that's what I do. So like, so important.
You just saying that's made me realize I have honestly not felt imposter syndrome for months. Just you saying that has made me, and that's the aim, right? That's what we want to get to.
Yeah. And like, I want to know about, because that's something that's really, that I love knowing about entrepreneurs, of like, how did you deal with like time management, money, with children, and then family, and then just also like taking care of yourself? Like you said, you're gonna be 9, like clearly you do something great for like yourself and your body and everything. Like, how do you keep all those things together for you?
So routine and habit is the boring answer. It's just,
I love that.
But I'm a creature of habit, and I always have been. But as my business has grown, just saying it out loud now, I think it's become even more important. I start my day going for a walk, put podcast in. I start, talking to myself, putting myself in that really like multiple $1,000,000 businesswoman mindset. And I do that come rain or shine. I have done for 5 years straight. I've missed a handful handful of walks in that time. I get up before everyone, and I'm in a fortunate place. My boys are teens, they're 17 and 15. They don't need me, they don't want me, they don't want to be around me, so my work, it's fine. But yes, it is that routine, and I do prioritize like things like I work out every lunchtime, so 12 o'clock ish, half 12, 12:30, that's, I stop and I go and do a workout. I just, in my spare room, I've got my weights, my Peloton, and that's what I do. But it's like brushing my teeth. I can't imagine not doing that. It's just those habits, and yeah, just taking care of myself, really knowing that not doing that absolutely has a knock-on effect on my business. I don't show up to my best, and I don't want to be like that. I'm like your listeners, I'm sure we want to be the best that we can. We're very driven, and anything that dents that, I'm not here for it at all. And I take care of myself. Getting my nails done is a huge priority for me. I will not miss that. It makes me feel good. Do the things that make you feel empowered, and just those small things. But it's also like acting in the way, and I know this is your kind of zone of genius, your thing, but it's like you've got to be that woman that you have yet to become, like in every moment, like everything that you do, the way from the way you prepare your meals, drink your coffee, talk to your kids, your partner, everything, the way you just show up for yourself, act, hold yourself, and that ingraining of that as a habit into my day-to-day life. And in terms of like the practicality, I'm a very organized person. I'm very logical, strategic. It's why I love sales strategy. But I do stay organized. I move fast. And I think that's another thing. Like when you make quick decisions, you're not sitting wasting time, and you just kind of make those decisions and know some will work out, some will not. And that for me has served me, I think, just from the speed at which I move. I can see the efficient, straight path to things in everything. And I help my clients with that too. It's like, but it is about making that move, and we just go for it, right? No questions asked.
There's so much in what you said, and I love having like successful women talk about that, because I think as people that do business, sometimes we're like, oh, but this is so important, so we leave our body out, or we leave our mindset out, or we leave like those moments of connecting to a higher purpose, because connecting to that woman that's already like having everything you want, you can fucking have it right now. You just need to take the fucking decision of stop acting like your past self and start acting like who you want to be. And that's like the thing that made me do the switch in English, because I was like, I know that my future self is international. I know that she is like doing conference around the world, and like, is it fucking scary? Yes. But like, if I don't do the decision right now, I'm never gonna be her, So I love that you said that, because it's so important for every woman that wants to be on a higher level to have that, to have routines. Also fucking boring, I get it. And I think there's an overload of routines right now on Instagram of like, this is my 4-hour morning routines of like, you don't need that much, but you need like just having those thing of like, you're like, I don't know, but I know that I work out at like noon or 12:30, like whatever happened, this is there. And I think like this is the strength that you have, and that you say that influence your business, because you always said like, I was a mother, I was a business owner, but for me, it was always important to be a woman behind that. And I think so much women forget about that part of like, they're a CEO, they're mother, they're like a wife, but who they are behind all of this,
Yeah. And men often live in just a lot fewer identities than we as women do. We have to juggle all these different identities, right? And there's judgment around that. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but it's like, it's almost like we're not allowed to pour into that part of ourselves, and whereas men are more. And I feel like it's so important to be your best self. And the older that I've got, Claudia, the more I've realized this. You get to this point and you realize, wow, this is just the one shot, or that's my belief anyway, and like, let's just make the freaking best of it. Be that person that you are always meant to be, and show up as that person, and show the world. For goodness sake, just go and show the world, right? The world needs you.
I love this so much. Thank you so much. You're so inspiring. I think that all the women that are like maybe not aligned in their business right now, don't know how to talk about their like geniuses, also will like find a lot of fucking value in this podcast right now. And I always ask a last question of like, what would be if you had only one tips that you can give to someone? What would be yours?
I think it is going back to that. Be unapologetic and make those leaps. Be fearless. That's what I was going to say. Be fearless, because it's always those moments that feel scary that are the things that absolutely 10x you and catapult you to that next level. And if you could just take a bit of that and be brave, and even if it's just once, just try it. It's magic, and see where you end up. Yeah.
But drop the mic. Thank you so much, Helen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Claudia. I've loved this. Thank you.
If women want to follow you, learn more about you, where they should go?
So come and say hi on Instagram. It's only me and my DMs. I have a team, but they're not allowed in my DMs. I would love to say hi, love to chat. And if you are the kind of like future female leader who really wants to jump into a space with others for free, I have something called the Messaging Vault. So come and find me and ask me about that. It's incredible. And I am just loving pouring into that, all the behind the scenes of what's working for me every single week and what's working for my clients as well. So I'd love to invite your listeners into that as well. So just find me on Instagram, you'll see it in my bio, or just DM me, but please come and say hi, because I love to chat.
Thank you so much for being here.
Buy yourself a drink.